Hello and welcome to our webinar, Why Firms Are Banking on Relationship Intelligence for Prospect and Client Management. I'm Michelle Daly, Head of Demand Generation at Affinity, and I'm joined today by Affinity Product Marketing Manager Ranesh Kinagayam and Product Manager Jamie Frankowiak. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping notes. We will be recording today's webinar and we'll be sending the recording to all registrants after the event. If you have any questions, you can submit them at any time, and we'll be answering those offline after the webinar as well as during the webinar. And with that, over to Ranesh and Jamie.
Thanks, Michelle, and welcome everyone. Today we're talking about business development and the unique needs of those in relationship-driven businesses like investment banking. Jamie, we talk a lot about relationship intelligence here at Affinity. What is relationship intelligence and how are customers using it in their business development?
Great question, Ranesh. So relationship intelligence is all about the data and the sentiment between your business and a prospect. Affinity Relationship Intelligence is tailor-made for deal makers to deliver insights and confidence without the data drudgery of CRMs. For our customers and business development functions, Affinity provides insights on prospect lists by enriching them with context. If you caught a recent webinar with Corporate Advisory Solutions, Michael Lamb, one of our CAS co-founders and managing partners, talked about how in one day of using Affinity, their active database more than doubled.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a really significant increase. And so today we're going to talk to you about how teams are doing this, specifically how they are using Affinity to accelerate efforts from enriching and managing prospects lists to growing relationships that result in successful client relationships. Today, we're pulling prospects from all sorts of places, from articles and newsletters, people we meet at conferences, directly from PitchBook, etc. Jamie, how are teams managing these different leads across all of their sources? How can I manage all of my prospects, and what value does having them together create?
Yeah, so I'm going to share my screen a little bit. So the great thing about Affinity is that it goes where you go. So you could be looking at an article around up and coming enterprise tech companies, which is maybe the area that you focus on. You stumble upon a company, we'll say Funnel.io. Naturally, you're going to go to their website in order to learn more information. So using Affinity's Pathfinder tool, right from where you are, you're able to see whether or not your firm has any relationships. It looks like we don't, so this is probably a good fresh prospect to go ahead and add to our prospecting list. This prospecting list is a really great centralized source of truth for your business development teams in order to bring in all information about prospects that they've identified, whether that's importing lists from PitchBook or other sources. We also have an integration with SourceScrub where you can send your list directly to Affinity with one click. And finally, the mobile app is also a great on-the-go tool to cross-reference whether or not you have a relationship with a company and add them to this list.
Nice. Historically, I know that investment bankers have used notepads and Excel files to keep track of notes on their prospects, but digital transformation has been a priority for some time. For those that haven't yet adopted a CRM technology, why is it important that they make that change now?
Yeah, so investment banking, particularly the boutiques, it's a highly competitive market. We've also seen that they're relatively slower to adopt new technology vis-a-vis other financial and professional services firms. So we're really at this inflection point. Firms need to either learn or lean into AI and machine learning powered tools like Affinity, or they're going to risk falling behind. And this has only been exacerbated by the pandemic. Traditionally, these are travel intensive industries, and now they're suddenly grounded. And having the right technology stack has really proved invaluable. When you can walk over to a colleague's office or take a prospect to dinner, there's a different kind of landscape there, and you can no longer do that as efficiently. And so technology becomes even more important for remote collaboration and for relationship building. So with Affinity, firms like CAS were able to transition into this new world without skipping a beat. Using relationship intelligence, CAS could efficiently stay on top of their target markets, which ultimately helped them make better decisions. In a recent webinar with Michael Lamb, he said that now, even with travel restrictions lifted, CAS is able to make more intelligent decisions on whether or not a prospect is good before they travel.
That's a really great point, Jamie. The pandemic truly shifted how businesses operated overnight. It's really interesting to see a lot of these new practices sticking and even improving business development practices as things open back up. Another change we've seen is the emergence of more hybrid and remote teams. And it seems like this is another thing that may stick at least for a while. For those that are sourcing across teams and channels, how are they using relationship intelligence to inform their BD efforts? I imagine it can get a little messy.
Definitely. Again, especially when you can't just walk over to your colleague's office to see whether or not they have a relationship with a company, you start to hear more and more these horror stories that existed before the pandemic but have really been exasperated. So imagine you're a new team member and you're trying to quickly make your mark. So maybe you bring over contacts from your former firm or long-term relationships that you've had and reach out to them to try and spur new business. Only after reaching out do you realize that one of your new colleagues has actually been working on that person as a lead for months. And so not only have you tarnished your reputation, you've potentially negated months of work put in by your colleague. And again, it's a really competitive and relationship-driven market. A founder can easily go to another firm who personally knows him or her better. And it's really painful to hear those stories when it's so easy to prevent with Affinity. You can search for any company or person very easily and go to their profile in order to see relevant information about your team's communication with that company. So you can really easily see with Gong, for example, that there's a lot of communication happening already between your colleagues and this firm. You can also see that they've been added to your prospecting list. And in fact, there's an engagement letter signed already on a buy-side deal. So definitely don't reach out to this one.
Yeah, that's a really great example. So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's say you've used Affinity to consolidate all of your prospects together, but we also know that closing a deal in investment banking is a years-long process. How does Affinity help accelerate business development?
Great question. So the centralized context and shared history are crucially important, not just for visibility on contacts across your organization, but also for providing a place for you to personally streamline and scale your business development efforts. So you can really easily create a particular view where you filter on yourself as owner and are able to see just your prospects. And there's a lot of great tools for you to use in order to stay on top of those relationships. You can take notes. You can fill out reminders after having a conversation with, say, Loom, for example. Maybe they're not quite ready for that next step, but they said in a month follow up, and you just want to make sure that you're staying on top of that. Previously, you're putting fake calendar items up. Here, you can bring all of those reminders into one place, and they're going to automatically go off once you hit that timeline. We also have this feature called reminder triggers, which is going to be really helpful, especially for those relationships that have been formed but they're just not ready to do a big deal, maybe a sell side deal. And it's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5 years until that founder is really ready. And this is a really tough spot to manage this relationship, make sure that you're staying on top of it. And so with reminder triggers, you can actually identify based on a particular status. So say, we formed that relationship, they're just not quite ready. You can focus on deals that are just yours and say, okay, I want to make sure that no matter what, on a quarterly basis, I am touching base with this founder. The great thing is because we're synced so closely to your email and calendar, if you do have any communication with them, we're naturally going to snooze this. And so you don't have to worry about one by one setting reminders, one by one snoozing them. We're just in touch with what you're doing. And if you don't follow up with them that quarter, we're going to remind you with this.
That's really great. So let's move our focus from acceleration to the top of the funnel. In order to close the number of deals that you're targeting, you need to have a large funnel. How do you streamline the communication to that funnel so it's manageable and less manual?
Yep. So Affinity can really streamline your BD efforts from start to finish. So say my reminder just went off for Loom, and I want to get in touch with Joe Thomas, my contact there, about the conversation that we had and a next step. So I can go to his profile and right from within Affinity, I can actually email Joe. We also have a feature that allows you to insert templates so that you can just go ahead and reuse language that you're using over and over again. You're not starting from scratch. These emails are actually going to be sent through your own inbox. So it's going to look like it's coming from you personally. You can even customize a signature with your branding right there. so that you're able to send an email that looks really personal and builds that relationship with this contact, but you're able to do within seconds what used to take minutes, and across tens or hundreds of leads, this is going to save you so much time.
Yeah, I imagine that's really valuable. And so let's say you have a reason to reach out to a prospect, such as a closed deal announcement. How do you know who this is relevant to communicate to?
So not only is Affinity going to auto-create people and profiles for you as you have conversations with them, we're also going to enrich those profiles with information from third-party providers and our own Affinity data tool. And so we're going to automatically fill in job titles, industry, so that you can come in here and say there's an internet deal that your firm just closed. You can really filter down very easily by, okay, I just want to see founders in the internet industry, and I want to send them information about this announcement press release to remind them, how on top of this industry we are and how ready we are to help them with their own endeavors. You also, again, can do this right within Affinity. So not only can you email contacts one by one, you can also send emails in bulk. So each of these individuals I've selected are going to receive personalized individual emails that are gonna again look like they came directly from me. I can insert a template again. I can link to the press release, and it's going to again personalize all of these emails for the people that I've selected. So again, saving you so much invaluable time so you can step away from these manual tasks and really focus on building expertise in your industry and building relationships rather than just writing emails.
Nice. So let's take a step out of the deal funnel. How can teams use real-time data to understand their sourcing channels and where they should be spending more or less of their time?
So tracking is one thing, but the best investment firms are really going to be analyzing information that improve their pipeline. So Affinity Analytics is going to be great for that. You can break down your pipeline, see at a high level just the number of prospects across each stage, across each team member. You can look at the different sources for any of your deals and really evaluate what are the best sources for generating new customers. You can also look at how those prospects are moving through your funnel. Are they getting stuck in any particular stage? How can you improve your processes in order to move these prospects more quickly through the funnel? And that's just on prospecting. Affinity Analytics can also help you with your live engagements. So you can analyze these engagements by deal type, by the principal working on them, by the transaction value, and also streamline fee collection. So again, helping you work on these operational tasks more efficiently and effectively is going to help you save tons of time so you can focus a little bit more on being client facing and building those relationships.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamie. These were great examples for some of the questions I had, but let's try to get to a couple of audience questions. So the first one, I love the idea of using a CRM, but it's difficult to get our principal to add information into a new system. We've heard this before.
Yes.
How have your customers overcome this?
Yeah, so the great thing about Affinity is even the worst CRM adopters, we're still going to be able to track all the communication and all the meetings that they're having. So even if you, again, kind of look at this example of Gong, even if the principal hasn't added them to the prospect list, hasn't put the engagement in the system, you can clearly see the communication going on between them and Gong to understand, hey, there's something going on here. I need to stop before I reach out and make sure that I kind of understand the situation. You can then have an analyst or associate maybe do those kind of CRM steps in order to kind of get the information into the system around the engagement and where the prospect is. But it's going to make sure that it's going to track that. Also, it's a really lightweight CRM. There we have this view that we looked at before that's going to feel a lot like Excel. Even the kind of more seasoned, principals and partners have been working in Excel for a really long time. And so this is a really easy to use UI that you can, approach and not feel as though it's so heavy and complicated to understand. That being said, if you want to be a little bit more tech forward, especially in the remote workplace, where you want to have kind of that virtual collaboration, we also have this board view that allows you to collaborate with teammates and have kind of this more visual experience that is a little bit more tech forward. So we really have those both levels depending on kind of how excited you are about technology versus how much you really just want to, wrap technology around what you're already doing today.
Yeah. So moving on to, I think, our final question. Can Affinity help beyond BD? How does it work down funnel?
Yeah, so we talked a lot about business development today, but Affinity is really going to help investment banks with their end-to-end processes. So in terms of engagements, where we're really going to help when you kick off an engagement, and we talked a little bit already about how you can kind of analyze your pipeline of engagements and do fee collection, but you want to make sure that engagement actually goes well for your client. Mm-hmm. And so here's an example of an outreach list for a sell-side M&A deal. So in this case, we have Full Story, one of our clients, and they're looking to sell themselves to a strategic or a financial buyer. And so here we can put in all of those target firms or companies that we're going to reach out to on behalf of Full Story, and really manage in this collaborative environment, the work the analysts and their associates are doing to split up this list and make sure that they're going through all the necessary steps to receive this teaser, the NDA, get that signed, and make sure that you are moving all of these different targets effectively through the process. The nice thing is too, is you're taking this really collaborative environment and able to spin up really quickly a client-facing report without any additional work. So this is just tracking what you saw in kind of that Excel-like UI, but doing it automatically without any manual work. So you're able to have kind of this really glossy update for your client without, going and taking hours to try and gather the information that's in everybody's inboxes and manually put it in order to create this report, in a time-sensitive manner.
Nice. Thank you so much, Jamie. That looks like that's all the time we have today. If you want to learn more about how our customers are leveraging technology to stay on top of long business development cycles and scale their efforts, check out our customer page at affinity.co/customers. For those of you who are new to Affinity, I encourage you to reach out to get a demo at www.affinity.co/demo and have a conversation with our investment banking specialists about how we can help you source more deals, manage your pipeline more effectively, and save hundreds of hours of manual data entry time.
Great. Thank you so much, Ranesh and Jamie, and thank you to everyone that joined us today. If you do have any questions that we didn't get to, you can send them at any time to webinars@affinity.co, and we'll get those answered for you. That's it for today's webinar. Keep an eye out for the recording in your inbox later today. Until next time, take care.